Tanisha, thank you very much for meeting with me today. As you know, I'm a professional school counselor, and I wanted to meet with you today to talk about anything that you were going through. I wanted to inform you that anything that you are disclosing with me today will be kept confidential. And once again, I really appreciate it. We have about 20 minutes to talk about anything you would like to talk about. So, first off, I would like to start off with just briefly stating your favorite thing to do, favorite food, and your favorite color.
Yes, my favorite food is Mexican food. My favorite color is green, and my favorite thing to do is working out.
My favorite food is enchiladas, so Mexican food. My favorite thing to do is taking care of my daughter because I'm a new time mom, and my favorite color is purple and yellow.
Okay.
So, like I mentioned before, we have about 20 minutes to talk about whatever you would like to talk about. So, what would you like to share with me today?
I would like to talk about my childhood, growing up with two parents that are deeply into drinking alcohol and things like that. It was just really hard growing up, seeing my parents argue and fight a lot. It scarred me even as an adult. Now I'm 26 years old, and sometimes I feel like I can't even take a drink because, I feel like alcoholism runs in my family. And being in a relationship, being extra sensitive in a relationship when my partner raises their voice, hearing it as a child a lot, hearing my dad raise his voice at my mom, it takes me back almost into like a child state of being. So in my partnerships, I tend to be very codependent on my partner because of that dynamic that I saw when I was a young child.
So, I understand that during your childhood you experienced a lot of disappointment, it sounds like, in your parents. Now, seeing that you expressed those words with me, how did that make you feel?
The disappointment part, first off, started when my dad became dependent on my mother, and he would the hitting started. I'm not quite sure how old I was, but I will estimate, from 5 to 7 is when I found out my father was hitting my mother, and it made me feel just a strong dislike for alcohol because it happened when they were drinking, and a strong dislike for my own father. So I ultimately had a bad relationship with my father. The time I found out he was abusing her, until I would say about 19, 20 years old. This is after I moved out of the house, so it was very hard for me to have a relationship with my dad because he kind of treated me, I saw the dynamic he was being with my mother, and I saw him treating me like that as a young teen.
Okay. So I understand that you mentioned to me that you feel that since your father abused your mother, you feel that in a way he was abusing you as well. Am I correct?
Oh yes, and he would definitely do the same thing to my sister. I feel like it was more me and my sister getting the brunt of it, and my brothers not so much because he let them, free fall, do what they want kind of thing, but with some discipline. But with me and my sister, it was a lot of discipline, and he had I would say, go as far as saying he had a leash around our necks. He had to know what we were doing, who we were hanging out with. And I understand that as a father, you want to know what your young daughters are doing, but it came to a point where it was a control thing and almost a possession type thing, as well as he was with my mother, telling her how to dress, telling her how to do her hair, how short to have her hair, how long to have her hair. It was just unhealthy relationship.
Yes. And you mentioned to me that your father treated your mother a certain kind of way, treated you and your sister a certain kind of way, and then treated your brothers a certain kind of way. So you realized that at a very young age that he was treating each and every one of you in different ways, correct?
Yes. I feel like, if I can elaborate on that, I feel like I had it the worst. I'm the middle child, and I know this is, cliche to say that the middle child always gets it worse, but in this case, I feel like I did. A lot of the times my own mother told me that I'm just like my father. So in a lot of ways, I would take that as she couldn't allow herself to have a better relationship with me. So me and my dad would bump heads, and she was sometimes, I feel, okay with us bumping heads, not as harsh on him as if he were to be harsh with my sister. I feel like me and my dad's relationship affected me and my mom's relationship, because my mom seen me as my dad, and my dad seen me as this rebellious teen that just didn't want to listen. But the relationships that I had with them both were broken, so I didn't know how to come to them when I needed something. Even in my adult life now, I don't know how to come to them when I need something. It's hard for me to open up to them because of past judgments when I was a child.
So I understand that you mentioned to me that your father treated you a certain kind of way because it was of control. He wanted to have some kind of control over you, over your mother, over your brothers. And it sounds like that issue that you were experiencing from your adolescence to your early adulthood, it has never been resolved. Am I correct?
Yes. I don't want to say we don't have a relationship, because we absolutely do, but it is very distant. Even, when I come over, they know that I love them. I know that they love me, but it is very, it is an estranged relationship. I'll just put it like that.
And since you mentioned that the relationship is basically broken in a way, right? But you have a relationship, but it's just kind of broken, you mentioned. How does that make you feel?
It makes me feel like one day when they get sick, or, pretty much get sick or close to passing, I'm missing out on a relationship with them, or a good relationship with them, because I have a relationship. And ultimately, when they do pass, I'm going to have this deep regret that I don't want. So I don't know how, but I need to fix my relationship with both of my parents. Even though they are still battling with things in their life, I haven't yet accepted what they do and how they live their life. So it's hard for me to come to terms with how to deal with it.
So right now, once again, I really appreciate you sharing those feelings with me about your parents and about your experiences with childhood. Right now, I would like to go over a few ideas that we can talk about to help you improve that relationship, not only with your parents, but to come at peace with yourself, so you know how to accurately get over something that you have been battling with for so long. Is that okay, Naisha?
Yes.
So first, I would like to basically allow you to express yourself about what you feel that you can do to mend that relationship with your parents.
As of right now, I feel like me just being around more can have them open up to me and have me open up to them naturally, because I feel like it's a lot of the times it's forced. I feel like my mom doesn't really talk to me, and my dad, talks to me, but not really talks to me. He just kind of bottled things in, and when he's ready to explode, he will explode. Me just being around more can help the relationship, all three of us, become closer together, because, like I said, I am at a distance with them, because in a lot of ways, I feel like if I allow my parents to be in my life and allow them to stress me out with their issues or what they're going through, I feel like I would ultimately, and this is going to be, very dramatic, fail at life. Because I have them in my life or around to bring me down to where, because I've worked really hard all my life, and I have this thing to uphold to, whatever that thing is, right? And I feel like with my parents in my life, as bad as this may sound, they bring me down in a way. Emotionally, they bring me down. Mentally as well, because it makes me think about my childhood and future planning. Planning planning around my parents, meaning like when I get a house, when I have children, when am I going to be able to bring my children over to my parents' house? When are we going to come together for family events? When they meet my spouse's family, how is that going to go? So it's a whole mess of things that go into my parents. So it's very difficult to think about, and it almost turns my stomach to think about it, because I always in relationships feel like I'm not accepted fully for who I am. So if I'm not accepted, how are they going to accept my parents? Because they come with a lot of issues, and it takes a special kind of person to accept two people like that. So
Absolutely, I understand what you're explaining to me. Now, with that being said, I believe that it's very important. The first step into creating and accepting ones for who they are, and particularly we're referring to your parents. So to accept them for who they are, it's so important to forgive them, right?
yes.
Now, another concept that I would like to go over on top of forgiving them is loving them unconditionally no matter what, right? No matter if they're wrong, no matter if you're wrong, most importantly, just to mend that broken relationship so it can be more of a naturalistic versus being forced. Forgiveness and showing them love unconditional, showing them that you support them even when they didn't support you. Because as you mentioned, they are currently going through a phase of abusing alcohol and drugs.
Yes.
So with that being said, it's really restricted for you to be natural towards them and just to really accept them. You've mentioned to me that you don't visit them as often for that reason, correct? Now, how does that make you feel to think that you're not visiting them that often?
It makes me sad, because when I see other families or I talk to friends, they tell me how their dynamic is with their parents, how often they go to see them, and how they can just talk to their parents about almost anything. And I don't have that relationship with my parents, and it makes me question myself, like, am I being this evil daughter for not going over there to my parents' house, or am I this person that is not able to forgive and let go? But I'm willing to forgive and let go. It's just it's constant with them. So it's hard to forgive forgive my parents for the way that they are, because that's their personality, that's how they live their life, and they're entitled to that. But I just feel like I will be able to take that step once I see improvement from them, and I haven't seen that yet. But I know that forgiveness is first, so I just don't have the tools to move forward with that. Where does forgiveness start?
I think that in terms of answering your question, forgiveness definitely starts with communication, whether it's from your parents first or whether it's from you first. I think that it's very important for you to, kind of, if you feel like you're having some type of guilt over not communicating with them, start communicating, because it will definitely make a difference. You giving your mom or your dad a call in a day saying, how was your day today? Oh yeah, it was nice talking to you today. What are your plans for the weekend? Really restoring that relationship so you can create a better bond with them. It's so important to just not forgive just your parents, but forgive them as individuals, because your mother may be going through something that she's going through, and your father may be going through something that he's going through, and together your parents may be just facing something together that's probably breaking them down, and that's probably restraining them from having a better relationship with themselves and with their children. So in terms of the first step that I would suggest is, you're a very beautiful woman. I see you have a very strong head on your shoulders. It seems that you're very goal oriented, and I I honestly think the first step that you can do is start communicating with them more often.
Okay.
Like I said, making those phone calls, even the text message. Text messaging is big nowadays, so you can send them a text message. Visiting them. Now I know that may take, it's a step-by-step process, right?
Yes.
So when do you feel that it's most appropriate to visit them?
This is gonna sound terrible, but when it's convenient for me is when I go to visit my parents. There's been times where I will pop up and they'll be surprised and stuff like that, but I usually don't do anything, not anything, but with my parents unless it's convenient for me because they have friends that I don't get along with and they know I don't get along with them and they still continue to keep them around. So I really go when I know that there is no alcohol or little to no alcohol. Maybe if I go early morning or early on a weekend or when I know they don't have money to buy alcohol, I may go over there. So basically when it's convenient for me, I'll go over there to, you know, limit my stress. I'll call before to make sure that, you know, they sound right or nothing's going on, no one's over, and that I can sit down and talk to my parents just either with or without my brothers and sisters, doesn't matter to me, but without friends because my parents seem to put on a facade when they're around their friends. So, you know, they put on I call it a show to make it seem like things are okay, everything's okay, when really inside they are both broken and they don't want to get help. So pretty much when it's convenient for me. And I know that they're aware of that because, you know, they know I don't come around much. So
Now let me ask you, when you do